Hi, sixth graders. So last week we were talking about percents, decimals, and fractions and how they all relate to each other. Today we're going to look at percents that are greater than 100% and percents that are less than 1%. Okay, so we are actually going to skip the real world link today. We're going to go straight to the examples on page 118 and 119. So first we're going to look at percents as decimals and fractions. And we're looking at percents that are greater than 100% or less than 1%, and how they can also be written as decimals and as fractions. So you'll notice that this is very similar to the things that we were doing last week. So our first example, write 0 and 0.2% as a decimal and as a fraction in simplest form. So to write this percent as a decimal, we divide by 100 and remove the percent symbol. Or just like last week, we move the decimal point 2 places to the left, and then we get our decimal point, or our decimal form. And then we can write it as a fraction, 2 1,000ths or 1 500th. Keep in mind that this is your simplest form. We can also write 170% as a mixed number in simplest form and as a decimal. So to turn this percent into a fraction, we make it this number over 100. So 170 over 100. Well, that is an improper fraction, so we're going to turn it into a mixed number by making it 1 70/100ths or 1 7/10ths in simplest form. And then in decimal form, we would write 1.7 or 1 7/10ths. So let's look at these problems. We're going to write each percent as a decimal and as a mixed number or fraction in simplest form. So again, I'm going to use another sheet of paper so it's a little bit easier to see. So A is 0.25%. So to write that as a decimal, we're going to drop the percent sign and we'll move the decimal point 2 places to the left. 1, 2. So that means that this percent, 0.25% in decimal form is 0.0025. Okay, and this is the same as if we wrote it in a fraction form, which would be 25, let's see, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, which is equal to 1 400th. And B is 300%. And if we wanted to turn this into a decimal, we would drop our decimal point, or drop our, not our decimal point, our percent symbol, and move the decimal point, in this case is at the end, 2 places to the left, 1, 2. Which means that 300% is equal to 3 in decimal form. If we wanted to write this in fraction form, we would write 300 over 100. And then in simplest form, that would be 3 over 1 or 3. And finally, we have C, 530%. And again, if we want to change this into a decimal, we drop our percent symbol and move our decimal point 1, 2 places over, which gives us 5 3/10. So we can go straight from here to write 5 3/10, or if we're not sure, we can write 530 over 100, which is the same as 53 over 10. And if we make it into a mixed number, is 5 3/10. Our next example says that Jimmy's savings increased by 250%. Write 250% as a mixed number in simplest form and as a decimal. So again, we're saying 250% is equal to 250 over 100. To change that into a mixed numbers, 2 50 hundredths, or 2 1/2. And in decimal form is 2 5/10, or 2.5. So our next example question, D, the stock price for a corporation increased by 0.11%. Write this as a decimal and as a fraction in simplest form. So I'm going to start with a fraction. So I know that this is 11 hundredths. So I know that that right away is in, whoops, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. That shouldn't be 11 hundredths. See, we all make mistakes, guys. I read that completely wrong. I am so sorry. So let's try this again. I'm actually going to start with the decimal form because that makes a little bit more sense in my mind. So we're going to drop our percent. We're going to move our decimal point over 1, 2 places, annex our zeros, which means in decimal form, 0.11% is the same as 0.0011, which this number in math terms, we would say 11 10,000ths, right? Because this is the tenths place, the hundredths place, the thousandths place, and the 10,000ths place. And if we look over to the next side, we have another set of notes, mixed numbers and decimals as percents. So now we're just kind of going backwards, going the other way. To write a decimal as a percent, multiply by 100 and add a percent sign. To write a mixed number as a percent, first write the mixed number as an improper fraction. So example number 4, write 1 1/4 as a percent. So first, we have 1 1/4, but we need to write it as an improper fraction. So we multiply 1 times 4 plus 1 gives us 5 over 4, or 5/4. Then we need to find an equivalent fraction, meaning 5/4 equal to something over 100. In order to get from 4 to 100, we have to multiply by 25. So 5 times 25 gives us 125. So that means that 1 1/4 is equal to 125 over 100, or 125%. So let's look at another example problem. We're going to look at E. So E says, write each mixed number as a percent. So we have 2 9/10. So first we have to write this as a mixed, or change it from a mixed number into an improper fraction, which means we multiply 2 times 10, which is 20, plus 9. So 2 9/10 is equal to 29 tenths. Now we have to change this number, 29 tenths, into something over 100. We know that 10 times 10 is 100. So whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. 29 times 10 is 290. So that means that 2 9/10 equals 290%. And our next example is F. So we have 3 2/5. So again, we have to change this into an improper fraction. So we can multiply 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17. So that means that 3 2/5 is equal to 17 over 5. Now we have to make this into an equivalent fraction over 100. So that means 5 times something is going to give us 100. So we know that 5 times 20 will give us 100. So whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. 17 times 20 will give us 100. And that will give us 340. So that means that 3 2/5 is equal to 340%. Next, we're going to look at example 5 and example 6. Example 5 says to write 1.68 as a percent. So we multiply by 100, or we move our decimal point over to the right this time, 2 places, and add the percent symbol. Same with 0.0075 as a percent. We move our decimal point over 2 places, or multiply by 100, and add the percent symbol. So let's look at G. So G is 2.5 equals something percent. So if I have 2.5 and I'm going to multiply this times 100, or I can go 2 decimal places over, and that gives me 250%. H, we're doing the same thing, 0.004. We're going to multiply it by 100, so that means we're going to move our decimal point 2 places over, which gives us 0.4%. And finally, I, 0.0016. So once again, we're going to multiply it times 100, or move our decimal point over 2 places to get 0.16%. The last example on page 120 is the cheetah is the fastest land mammal in the world. The peregrine falcon is the fastest bird in the world. Its speed is 2.1 times as fast as the cheetah. Write this number as a percent. So to write 2.1 as a percent, we multiply by 100, or move our decimal point over 2 places, 1, 2, and add the percent symbol. So that tells us that the peregrine falcon's speed is 210% of the cheetah's speed. Our last problem is J. The slowest land mammal is the sloth. Its speed is about 0.0016 that of a cheetah. Write this number as a percent. I know we already did it, but we're going to do it again. So we're going to take this number and multiply it by 100, which means that we are going to take our number 0.0016, and we're going to move our decimal point over to the right 2 places, 1, 2, which gives us 0.16%. So that means that the sloth's speed is about 1600% of a cheetah. All right, so you have some book pages to work with, and you have some practice pages on Canvas to work with. If you get stuck or you need help with anything, please let me know. You also have that notes page that I showed you all last week. It is still on Canvas for you to use, and I highly recommend using it. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm here for you guys. Have a great day.